Hi, and here let's have a look at the evening property photography. It's very important at the moment, especially when we're coming closer to the winter. And I have done a meetup group, but didn't manage to record it, so doing another record now. Evenings and nights is very important, especially when you come down to winter. And why? Daylight, November, December, January is basically the day is ending at 5 to 6 p.m. So it really depends on which months and where we're at. So basically, if at 5 o'clock it can be already dark. So that means, for example, you have like maybe 3:30 job or maybe 4 o'clock job. Maybe there is like a difficult floor plan, you got stuck a little bit. And now what you need to do, you now need to do the pictures and it is dark. So what do you do then? Let's have a look at this here. So first of all, where do we are at this moment? So here we can see that 5 o'clock gets dark already, and that's basically between November and December. Probably this is the shortest period, and then again from here it gets back and it just becomes more of the daylight. So that's basically the pattern. So here we can see basically from October down, probably from like January, February, it is basically the transition period. November, December, January, probably it is those 3 months, as here we can see, where it is actually the shortest daylight hours. Okay, so let's have a look at some final results. First of all, just want to give you an insight of what it is, how it looks like. Now here, beautiful image, nice, you can see here, perfect. Yeah, and even if you're going to give to a client something like that, they're going to be surprised. If you're going to be that wow factor, and we're going to help them to stand out of the crowd. And especially when it comes down to like evening photography, like people are actually, you know, a little bit kind of skeptical, because they think, oh, if we're going to be very dark and everything. They don't know that you can edit and all this. If you look here at the lights, you can see that the lights are here on already. So the street lights, you can see that it is already evening. Yeah, even you can see here all the street lights. But once you've done your final edits, it looks amazing. Now let's have a look at this. This is already like complete dark. Yeah. But why it is important to have these shots? Because simply if you can only do the last job maybe at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock to end up and finish everything, to have still enough light, then you can basically just do more, not more, but you can do just less work. And also another thing, you know, especially here in London, like you cannot rely on the weather, you know, like look, there is rain, there's a sun, there's a storm, there's whatever it is, like in half an hour it's changed already. Like it's not as bad as I'm saying, but of course it's good. I love London, it's perfect here. And the best weather always the same, you know, just half an hour raining and then it stops. So here what I wanted to say is, look, we always advise our clients, look, you know, don't worry about that, it's evening, we still can do great shots, because otherwise you can just have people kind of waiting for you to do the job, and if you cannot do the job, then they may find someone else, and then someone else can do the job for them, maybe at daytime, if they are not as busy as you. But if you're as busy, just trying to provide a service, you know, and this is also a good service, and you can see that from these samples. Now this is also here, especially when you have nice view, try to show as much as you can from the view. And here's a shot of the view itself, and here would be an external shot. Okay, and images before editing. Again, this is just a few images from a bracket, so I'm not gonna go through all like 3-4 exposures of each angle, but here let's have a look at this. This is the shot that was edited, and you see before editing and after, it's a massive difference, you know, and you can see it is kind of sun is going down already there. Now this is already, the sun has set already, and then there is no sun, it is basically just the evening. Now in this case, you see we can see barely something, and this may be some shot that you can consider as, you know, this is still alright. But if for example we go to a shot, and that would be a shot where we can have a shot to replace it, but we have basically this, it is basically just as a mirror, and we don't really see anything outside. Then in this case you would definitely need to have another shot, which would be here, and we take this shot and basically show exterior. And what we need to do, we basically need to switch off the light. And also you need to remember, when you're switching off the light, the camera will not focus, because there is not enough light for the camera to focus. So that means that when you do the first shot, you have set up the camera and everything. You have done the shot. Once you do the shot, switch off the autofocus option on your lens, and then basically switch off the light in the room. Just do another set of brackets, and then basically you will not gonna struggle with the autofocus, and you will not gonna need to move the tripod or anything. Just basically switch off the light and do a bracket series. And that's it. Now let's have a look at this. So here we have done some external shot, and of course externals you will have to do all of them on a tripod. In this case you have no other option. Like generally in the daytime you can do handheld because like there's enough light, but here you would also have to do the exteriors not handheld but on a tripod. And now we can see that there are the restrictions. We cannot anymore lift the tripod as we would do normally if we have a high rise, therefore we kind of have more little bit space. So if you have the tripod higher, then you can capture more of the space, and you basically need less to tilt the camera. Yeah, okay. Now let's have a look at the window replacement. Now this is something where we would definitely 100% we would need to have a shot for the window, and this is something that I done for like an architect that built this building. And here this would be a shot that I done just for the exterior. So now we have shot for interior, here we have shot for exterior, and now this is what I have taken from this shot and placed into the original image, and we can see the final result, and that would be the shot that I have achieved there. Now how do I do it? And of course I have actually used extra lighting there. This is just for this particular property because it was like everything like nicely done there, and I'm using my phone connected to my camera remotely, and basically switching on and off the lights just and taking pictures from my camera. I spent the whole day there, but it was just going to be something that it's good for you to basically see as an illustration of how the images are done and basically how they are stacked together. And of course, in normal circumstances, you would not highlight anything outside, like especially if it's a standard property. It's just there is street lights already. Just have a long exposure shot, and that's it. Okay, things to remember. So external images whilst still bright. So do the external images first. So one usual practice is that we do floor plan first. And why is that very important? Because when you are at the property, first of all, you do the floor plan, you familiarize yourself with the layout. Now, once you familiarize yourself with the layout, now then you do the pictures. And whilst you're doing the pictures, if something you find that is not according to the layout that you was drawing, then you can still come back to your drawing and make those amendments, because there may be things that you missed out. And when you're looking through the lens, you're looking at the things a little bit differently. And the other thing is because, for example, like for us in SpacePhoto, if you send images to the office straight once you have done the floor plan, you have done it you basically have taken a picture and sent it to our office, we can check the floor plan. We can say, look, if there is anything that is missing or it needs to be added, and then you will still do the pictures. We can then let you know, and you still can add those extra measurements on. This is a good thing to do, rather than just leaving and then remembering that something is missing. So therefore, in this situation, like images would come first, because even if it is darker, then you can always do the floor plan. It doesn't matter the daylight. So then always take in consideration what time it is when it gets dark, and just rush out, maybe do the externals, even if you see that you're going to manage to do everything on time. Just plan this is very important. Yeah, and it will going to make your life easier, because it is easier to do the shots without switching off and on lights in the rooms for different exposures. But when you, for example, are taking again only the angle without the window, then you don't have to play around with the lights, because you don't have a window. So it's just only for the window replacement. Yeah. Images may be done first and floor plan second. So this is what I was just explaining, and I mentioned about this, and especially we have had some situations where actually the images have been missed out on some of the properties, or maybe like a bathroom or another room. And actually the meetup that I was actually leading just now, meetup group, for property photographers, and there was one of my photographers just listening as well, and he basically just listened to this, and next day he goes to the property, he forget one of the rooms, and then he goes back to his scooter, and then he just counting the angles that he done, and he realized that he has missed one room, so he went back and do the shot of it. So first of all, why we usually do the floor plans first, like in normal circumstances, because you can familiarize yourself with a place, then you know what rooms is there, and therefore you are less likely to forget about the shots. Yeah, but if you just basically go through the images and then do the floor plans, then can be a situation also that you think, oh, I have done the images, you just left them aside, and then basically just focus on the floor plan, and therefore something can be missing. Because if you know the property, and if you know the layout of the property, and you know the rooms, then it will always be helpful. So therefore that is a standard is floor plan first, pictures after. It is helpful. I do it myself this way, but in the evenings you can consider of having images first and the floor plan after, but just keeping in mind not to forget anything. Yeah, that's very important. Have a shot for the window. That is what you don't need to forget. Yeah, when we talk about forgetting, and if you do that, this will be the end result. Yeah, so therefore if this would be the end result, it would not be okay, and you would probably need to come at daytime and maybe do that shot for the window, or just for the room itself in general. Yeah, so that is something that just needs to be done, and just need to remember. But I think once you go into the pattern and you know what you're doing, and you know that you just have to focus on replacing the windows. So whether you do with a flash and there's flash reflection daytime, you need to replace the windows. If you're doing evening shots and it's dark, you just have to replace the windows with a brighter shot, and that's it. So it's very important. So lens will not focus in the dark, and as I mentioned, yeah, and here is my lens. So here I have the autofocus and manual focus that basically I need to switch off and switch on if it's needed for me to do those shots, and just keep that in mind. But remember, another thing is turn back autofocus on the lens, because look what happens. You just have to turn off the autofocus, then you go to another room, even you have selected your specific point where you want to focus, it will not going to focus, because it will not going to turn the lens, it will not going to turn the focus ring on the lens. So therefore you may have everything autofocus, especially if you have done a smaller room, then the next one is larger, or other way around, you have done a larger room, then you go into a smaller room, it may be just everything out of focus. So just keeping that in mind is very important. And I think at the beginning we all have to go through some failures, so don't worry about failing. I mean, just check yourself before leave. Good practices before leaving, just going through the images that you have there. That's the most important thing. I do that, and especially if I'm there with a landlord, so tenant or something, I even say, look, would you like to have a look at the images? And they like to have a look at the images, and even if they are not happy with something, they will tell you straight away. Then you can correct it, and then you can put them in your best selection, and that means they will be happy. But whether you have done great shots and you have sent to the client, and the client has sent to the landlord, and then the landlord comes back unhappy, you may have done great job, but it's just they don't like whatever they have, some crazy ideas. And trust me, people have crazy ideas. Like now I was just doing an exterior shots, just exterior only, because it's a massive garden, like so many flowers, so many things there. Yeah, but the lady, she said, look, that's not the best time when to take the pictures. But now look, it's not summer, now it's coming close to the winter. So if it's not the best time to do it now, when do you want to do it? In the summer? So like after half a year, if you want to sell the house, then this is what it is. If you don't want to sell the house now, then consider the summer, after a few months down the line. But then again, people are then losing money, or maybe they have some financial situations where they have to sell it quick. So I mean, it's just contradicting these things. But personal feelings involved in all this property industry, especially people who live in a house for like 20 years, they have cleaned the garden, they have done all the flowers for all their life, and then all of a sudden like somebody doesn't appreciate that because we cannot capture the whole flowers there. So just a side story, yeah, but these things happen. So just it's good to show them. It's good to show them. Look, if they're not interested, not interested. If they're yes, also it will help you to check after that you have done everything correctly. I do it myself. So tripod can move and turning lights on and off. Remember that, especially when you are walking, maybe like a laminated flooring or whatever, you step, the tripod can move a little bit. So just try to be in the same position and not be too close to the tripod. Or if it's a solid like a floor, then don't worry about that. But this needs to be taken in consideration. If you capture a little bit, if you catch the leg of a tripod, you have to do the flash shot, or maybe just the internal shot with a long exposure again, and then again to do the window shot with lights off. Sorry. Okay. So here, flare from street lights. You see, we have this flare from street lights. There is no option we can avoid it because the light is there. The other option is if we can kind of have a different angle. So therefore, it's good to have different angles. But also we have this flare here, and we cannot avoid these things because especially from the lens you're using, you just have to try to do the best we can and see whether from a different angle the light shines in differently. Also, another thing is, as in property photography mistakes, we have watched the video and we know that we can actually cover whatever gives us the reflection. So we can have one shot as this, and then we have another shot where we can basically just cover the building with their hands. And that's fine that we cover the building with hands because that's the second shot. The first shot we have where we have everything as you see now. Then the next shot is if I would cover these two lights. Now let me go back. If I would cover these two lights with a finger or with whatever I were gonna put them in front of it, even though that I covered the whole building, for example, this would be my hand here all the way, yeah, I would not have this anymore, and then I will have something to replace it. In this case, don't have to worry about it because it's on the sky and we can replace the sky. But if, for example, you have a massive flare in like here and covering the whole building, then that is something that you may consider just having few shots. So one just to have the whole view and the other shot just to avoid the flare. But of course, then just have the camera steady in one place because this is long exposure images that we're going to do in evening, so there is no way around it. So cars. Look, there is this cars that is moving and you may think, oh, something's wrong or it's not looking nice. You don't have to worry about that. Like, as long as the property, is straight and it's sharp and it's there, it's not moving, that's the most important thing. Like, the other question is, somebody was asking, what about the trail lights, like when the cars are moving, the lights is there. Look, that's another thing that you can do, definitely. Here was just a red light, so they stopped at the red light and I done a shot. So if it's a busy street, then there is no other way around. You have to shoot with the cars. If you can try to avoid them, it's also good. And I know one photographer who even in a daylight he done as low as possible the shutter speed. Sorry, not the shutter speed, ISO and depth number to make it as dark as possible, as high as possible. And then what he done, he just basically tried to kind of blur out the images. Because if you have a long shutter speed, it keeps the shutter open and everything that moves blurs out. So basically he even tries to do that in the daytime. So I wouldn't worry about that too much in the daytime. I would more worry about when the cars is not there, if I can capture it, because then basically what it is, it's a short moment, short window. I get the window, I do the shot very good. But like when it's night and you have to have like a longer exposure, like it's hard to get like a moment when like there's no cars and like you can capture a moment, but it's like it will not gonna stay forever, so the cars are always moving. So this is normal if it's there, as long as the building is nicely visible and displayed. You may also need to use a higher ISO. And of course you think about the grain that comes with the ISO, but you have to remember, some image is better than no image, and like if you have an image, that's great, and if you don't have an image, that's not good. And like you can advertise property with an image that may not be the best image, but you may not advertise a property if there is no image. And if there is no images, you're not gonna click on the advertisement. Like you go on a Tinder, you go like swipe left light, and then if you have some profile where you don't have any image, you just go like left, yeah, And like if it's a nice image, you go like, right, am I right? I think you swipe right, yeah. So that's the same. Look, that's the same with property marketing. You just have to have those images, and therefore keep in mind that the estate agents, they use them a very compressed way, because when you put it on Rightmove, it resizes them and makes it a smaller quality for the website to be much faster. So therefore, you know, the grain will not going to be that much visible. Of course, the higher the quality, the better, especially for post processing and everything. So that's not an excuse to deliver bad quality. But I'm saying, look, when it comes down to delivering or not delivering, delivering will always will be what we have to do. And like I mentioned before, look, we don't have to think and try to prove what we cannot, but have to prove what we can and how we can do it the best at that given circumstances. Okay, so better is to have some photo than no photo. Look at this guy, yeah, Abraham Lincoln, yeah. There are not bad pictures. Like, there is no bad pictures. That's just how your face looks like sometimes. Yeah. So you know when some people do selfies and like, oh, I don't like that picture. Like, sorry, but this is how it looks like. That's the same as property. Look, if it like the circumstances, maybe scaffolding is there, maybe it's like I don't know, flares or sun reflections, or maybe it's raining, or maybe something else. It may be that it's not the best image, but it's the image, it's what it is. And you know, if there is some cases when you have to come back to a property, then it is. But in general, if you have done a great job, just because it's evening, it will not going to mean that because it's evening you will have to do a revisit. Like I showed you those samples, the best images before, they are all good images, and we have given them to client is happy, and there is not a problem at all. Yeah, so enjoy your day, and see you in the next video. Thank you.